And also the subject trees could cause harm should either the tree or a branch fall into the playing area or the properties. In terms of our response to that, there's no arboricultural justification that has been received to back up the drastic reduction that's been proposed, and the reduction that is proposed would be highly detrimental to the appearance of the trees and the conservation area. There's no arboricultural evidence that's been provided that confirms that the trees are in any way unsafe or have any major structural defects. If there are concerns that the trees are unsafe, then independent advice should be sought from an arboricultural consultant. We can then review those recommendations in any subsequent tree works application. And both trees located there are both in the rear garden, but both clear views from there. This is the beech tree. This is outside Ray's Farm Cottage. Another view of the beech tree outside Newlands Farmhouse. The wild cherry, this is a public view from the side of Ray's farmhouse. Another view of the wild cherry from outside Ray's Farm Cottage. And this is from outside the property where the tree is located at Ivy Cottage. And so the recommendation is to confirm TPO 2318. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll just take the report as a whole. Any questions? Oh, yes. I don't know why I keep doing this. For those who are unfortunate enough to be last on the list, I keep missing you out. But anyway, we have two objectors, Gillian Pembroke and Derek Davis. Morning to you both. If you're both speaking, are you? Yes. Sorry you've had such a long wait because you've been here all morning. And you have 3 minutes between you. So have you sorted out who's going to speak first? And yes. Okay. So when you're ready, the clock will start which is on the screen in front of you, and you have 3 minutes.
I object to the tree preservation order on the beech tree because Mr. Davis, who owns Ivy Cottage, and myself, owner of Old Barn, are anxious to reduce the beech tree in size. This tree, as shown in our photo, stands only some 20 feet to the west of my property. It has become very overpowering and tall. We consider it poses a threat to Old Barn and is now in urgent need of attention to ensure the safety of those around it. The top of Shoe Lane is at the top of the hill at Upham and takes the full force of any gale from any direction. We have regular power cuts because of falling trees and branches onto power lines. Storms have become more frequent and intense. Prevailing wind from the west or southwest would likely cause the tree to fall in the direction of Old Barn, severely damaging 1/3 of the house, which runs lengthwise at right angles to the tree. As it is, I choose to sleep at the other end of the house for my own safety. It would also damage my oil tank. In addition, and maybe more important, if the tree were to fall in any other direction, it could endanger the neighboring playground at precisely the point where children use the swings and picnic. Mr. Davis would also like me to add that Upham Parish Council has in the last 2 months felled several trees in the recreation ground close to Ivy Cottage that were considered a danger. He questions, therefore, why, although some had indeed got ash dieback, 2 trees were healthy and not nearly as tall as the beech tree in question, but were nevertheless given permission for felling. Mr. Davis has already made 3 unsuccessful applications to the council about this beech tree. He now feels strongly that if this application is turned down, the council should state in writing that they accept full responsibility for any damage that may occur from this tree. I sincerely hope, therefore, that you will urgently revise your plans and allow Mr. Davis to take any action necessary to preserve the safety of those around him. Mr. Davis, is this an accurate view?
Yes, that's very good, that is. Yeah, I'd just like to mention about my cherry tree. My cherry tree stands 3 metres from my house, and the branches tower over the top of my roof. In strong winds, they even touch the roof. But if the tree was to go to my house, it'd do tremendous damage. Also, I think the cherry tree is on the way out. It's got fungi growing out of it in various places. So I don't think it's got too many more years to go, a bit like me probably. So I hope you will grant us permission to get this work done so we can make both our houses safer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions from members? Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair. In the officer's response, it says here on page 136, I'm asking then the owners of the property, have you actually brought to the table the justification about the condition and, you know, how your cherry tree is? Have you got paperwork that backs up what you've just said to us today as a committee? If I can ask that. Thank you.
Councillor, so the answer was no, you haven't got documentation.
No, as I said, it's got fungi growing all out of it in 2 or 3 places on the tree. So, you know, that goes towards the trees the way out.
Thank you. Councillor Reid.
Yes, with a beech tree, how close is that to the rear boundary structure? I don't know whether it's a wall or a fence or what.
It's about 20 feet. I think the house was built to tree rather than tree.
No, I was thinking going north. I presume that's north.
That's the back of the house.
Sorry, what is the the boundary? Is it a brick boundary or is it a fence boundary, hedge boundary?
Could I just interject here that normally all visuals have to be discussed with the officers before, unless, John, you have that visual, do you? No, I didn't interrupt you. Miss Pembroke and Mr. Davis showed us the thing throughout your talk, but really it is one of our rules that the visuals have to be vetted by the officers before we see them. Sorry about that. So have you had an answer to your question?
That's why I was asking the question, because what construction is the wall, stroke fence, stroke hedge?
Well, the house is
Sorry to interrupt you. Could the microphone be placed on there, please?
Is that all right? Yes. So the beech trees is in Mr. Davis's garden, and it's probably 40 feet from his house, but it's only 20 feet from mine.
Misunderstood. I want to know what
The north boundary is just a small fence which runs across, separating Mr. Davis from the recreation ground.
And is the ground in front of the tree or around the tree got big service roots?
The recreation, the big tree.
In Mr. Davis's garden.
I should think it's got an enormous roots, probably under my house as well.
Councillor Rutter.
Thank you, Chair.
Do you understand that we're just confirming the TPO? So we want to protect the trees. That doesn't preclude you from doing any work to them, but you do have to get a proper report from a tree surgeon to explain what you want to do and why you want to do it. So it doesn't preclude you from doing works on the trees, but it does mean that you do have to come forward to our tree officers with that information. Now, we understand from the tree officer that you haven't done that. So, but we're very keen that you shouldn't feel under threat from your trees, but that you should appreciate the beauty of them as we do. But our supporting this TPO will not preclude you from doing necessary works, but you do have to justify those works with a report from a tree officer. I just wanted to check that you understand that.
Well, I understand that now, but we have spoken to people about the trees, and we could not see, like you perhaps, any reason why we shouldn't reduce them without necessarily spoiling their beauty, but they would be safer. And we can certainly go ahead and get written and visual things for your tree officer.
So that is simply, we're protecting the trees so they can't be cut down. But all you have to do is get a report from a tree officer, bring it to our tree officer, justify the works, and then you can go ahead. But it does need to go through that process.
That's fine by us.
Right, so thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you very much,
And
Mrs.
if you'd like to return to your seats, and we'll just have questions or debate, whichever you want. Yeah, thank you very much. Lovely, thank you. Questions first. Any questions to John? Councillor Cook.
I think Councillor Rutter summed that up, but I think there needs to be better clarity for the applicants here. And maybe the advice that they got. They mentioned they'd spoken to people. Did they speak to us initially with the other times? So I think there needs to be better clarification for them. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's in the report, and certainly John stressed that in his presentation. Mike, was it you wanted? Yeah, Councillor Reid.
The beech tree in particular, it's very similar to the one that I've got. They can be crowned, so they can be reduced in height. But, just to confirm that, really, and be done under application, as pointed out by Councillor Rutter.
Yeah, they can apply to carry out a reduction on the tree. What I would say is the reduction that was specified would have been hugely detrimental to the appearance of the beech tree and would have compromised its health and photosynthetic capability. So that would have affected its ability to shut off any pruning wounds, and a pruning wound would have been very large and susceptible to decay.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions, John. There's been reference to the proximity of the trees to the houses, with the assumption or the inference which may impact on the house. Could you confirm that that is a risk, because they're pretty mature trees, those roots are unlikely to grow any farther than they do? Is there a suggestion of damage to the actual buildings?
Again, we haven't seen any evidence that indicates that, and that kind of evidence or kind of a report from a structural engineer would need to be provided if there are concerns.
Okay, thanks. And the second question was, Upham, if I recall rightly, is within the National Park. This impact on your decision? To the TPO?
No, this is purely the amenity value of the trees.
Sure.
And they're setting within the wider conservation area and value as individual trees as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
contribute in debate? Councillor
Why not?
Reid.
Chairman, as you heard, I have a beech tree in my garden, and the roots for the beech tree run out in my area, which is about the same size, 10 to 12 metres to the grass area. Pain in the backside, but nonetheless, the tree, when it blows, a gale southwesterly hits the tree does not physically move itself. The oaks do. The oaks swing around like nobody's business, but the beech tree seems very, very firm because of its rooting system. But I believe that everybody should have the protection of damage to property. And if the cherry tree is causing that, I'm pretty sure that permissions would be granted to ensure that it doesn't cause any harm to property.
Thank you for that. And these are very nice trees, and doesn't mean they can't be reduced in any way, but they have to be done appropriately, not reducing the beauty of the tree. I hope the applicant now understands, or the applicants, plural, that the works can go on to the tree. It's just that evidence has to be provided by a proper engineer. So I think you're happy with that. So any more comments? Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, I mean, you know my opinion about protection of trees. It's plus, 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 because they're incredible habitat for all sorts of creatures in themselves. But from biodiversity plan, I'm very reluctant to agree or think of a magnificent tree like these two should be pulled or anywhere like that, because that has a biodiversity impact. But on the other side of it, of course, if trees have been planted too close from the house, we have then another issue. But we don't have evidence that there is root damage, and this again is something that have to be, indeed, insurance companies would require that anyway, and that then might change our general opinion, as Councillor Rutter said. I mean, I have beech trees. I've got a shelter belt of beech trees at the bottom of my garden, but they're protected in that they're in a belt of woodland. Each tree protects another tree. But what I'm saying is, the time I've lived in that house, which is getting up for 40 years now, I don't recall any of those trees losing branches. So they are resilient trees, even in storms. And they went through the 87 storms as though there'd been no storm at all. But on the other hand, conifers I had, oh boy, they were chronic. The whole garden was lifting up because of the strain of the roots. But there's nothing like that from cherry or beech trees. Not that I'm aware, and I think John would agree with me. You have to have a very, very old tree before. I'm concerned about any suggestion that there may be fungi development in the bark. Sure, again, you need to consult a tree doctor, basically, give you an opinion as to what danger that fungus. Meanwhile, I've got to say, I support this application for a TPO, but you know what you must do. Clearly, proximity to your house is a concern. Yes, I understand that, but get evidence from a qualified tree doctor. The fact that John is protecting the tree is in itself a suggestion that the City Council thinks safe as a tree can be.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. John, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I thought I'd better just clarify. I did see the visuals yesterday on an email, so I thought I'd better just to clarify that. Yeah. But what I would say is that the works would potentially be very detrimental to both of those trees. In terms of the wild cherry with the fungi, we haven't seen that ourselves, and we would need to see the evidence for that to review that.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I think that's it for contributions. So the recommendation is to confirm The TPO has got a number, 2318. All those in favour, please show.
That's all members, Chair.
Yep, thank you. So that TPO 2318 has been confirmed. Thank you. I saw that we had one comment put in the box. Yeah, if you're interested. If not, you can go.